The night sky above New York was heavy and choked with clouds, turning the city's neon reflections into streaks of smeared color against the black. Perched high atop the Chrysler Building, Spider-Man crouched in complete stillness. The black symbiote clung to him like liquid shadow, its surface rippling with almost imperceptible movements that matched his breathing. Even after weeks of wearing it, Peter still felt its constant hum, a low, pulsing whisper threading through his mind, encouraging him to move faster, strike harder, never hold back. Tonight, the whispers were louder. He scanned the streets below, following the shrill, warbling sound of a police radio call that the symbiote had somehow tuned into his senses. It was a disturbance near Battery Park, but not the usual robbery or mugging. The chatter mentioned a falling star crashing into the Hudson, and a figure in golden light emerging from the water. Peter's pulse quickened. Alien tech, he muttered under his breath. Great. Just what I needed on a Thursday night. He didn't know why, but the symbiote seemed agitated, its surface flexing like muscles preparing for a fight. Across the river, the being in question rose from the darkness, like a vision from another reality. Sinestro, former Green Lantern, now proud bearer of the yellow light of fear, held a cylindrical power battery in one hand, its glow casting long shadows over his stern, hawk-like features. His arrival had not been intentional. He had been pursuing one of his own, a rogue Yellow Lantern. Through the fractured edges of space, when the fugitive had slipped into a dimensional rift, Sinestro had followed without hesitation, tearing through the fabric of reality until he emerged in this strange universe. The fugitive was gone, but the stolen battery remained, except it wasn't stable. He sensed something else, something alien yet alive, pulling at the battery's energy. It was nearby, slithering through the city's labyrinth of metal and glass. He followed it until he landed in the park's shadowed expanse. The glowing battery held like a weapon. That's when he saw the shape drop from the rooftops with impossible grace, black tendrils curling from its limbs. Spider-Man landed silently on the grass, the symbiote already flaring along his shoulders in jagged spikes. The moment his eyes met the golden light of Sinestro's battery, he felt it, a magnetic pull, a surge of energy that made the symbiote writhe like it was starving. In the back of Peter's mind, the alien's voice was no longer whispering. It was screaming, "Take it, consume it." Sinestro's eyes narrowed. "You are not of my core, and yet your parasite craves my light." His voice was calm, dangerous, each word sharpened to a blade's edge. "Yeah, not sure what a core is," Peter shot back, though his voice was tighter than usual, his wits strained under the symbiote's pressure. "But I know trouble when I see it. Hand over the glowing magic lantern, Mr. Rogers, and nobody gets hurt." Sinestro didn't answer. He simply lifted his ring hand, and the yellow light roared to life, forming a construct, a massive claw of fear energy that swept across the park with lethal precision. Peter flipped backward, landing against the trunk of an oak before springing forward with a burst of symbiote-boosted speed. Black webbing shot from his wrists, sticky strands wrapping around the claw before it could close. To his surprise, the construct didn't simply vanish under pressure. It resisted, the yellow light burning at the webbing, forcing Peter to release before it could reach his arm. Sinestro took note. "You are fast," he said, "and your parasite is bold, but I am Sinestro of Corrigar. I do not yield to vermin." The symbiote surged, tendrils lashing outward like spears. Peter didn't fully control the movement. The alien wanted the battery, and it wanted it now. The black tendrils met Sinestro's light in a shower of sparks, the two energies hissing and snapping like oil on fire. Around them, the park's trees were shredded into splinters, and the few onlookers who had been drawn to the crash site were now screaming, scattering into the night. Peter gritted his teeth. "Not here," he muttered to the symbiote. "We can't..." But before he could finish, Sinestro moved with terrifying speed, closing the gap and swinging the battery forward like a bludgeon. The impact caught Peter in the chest, hurling him backward into the fountain. He felt the air rip from his lungs, but the symbiote hardened instantly, absorbing most of the blow. In that moment, underwater, Peter's vision blurred, not from the hit, but from what he felt. The symbiote had touched the battery's power field. For a split second, it was as if he could see everything Sinestro feared, and everything he could make others fear. The symbiote drank in that sensation greedily, and Peter surfaced with his fists clenched, breathing ragged. Sinestro watched him rise. "Your parasite knows the language of fear," he said, his tone shifting from scorn to something almost resembling curiosity. "Perhaps you are worth my time after all." Lightning cracked overhead, and the park lights blew out one by one. The symbiote stretched itself over Peter's eyes until his mask was a featureless void of black, his white eye lenses narrowing to sharp points. "I don't know who you are, pal," Peter growled, "but you just made my night a whole lot worse." Neither of them moved for a moment. The battery pulsed in Sinestro's hand. The symbiote pulsed against Peter's skin. And somewhere in the air between them, the dimensional rift that had brought Sinestro here began to ripple again. Unseen, unstable, ready to pull more worlds into collision. The first clash had been a test. The next would be a war. The ripple in the air widened without either combatant noticing at first. It was subtle at the edges, like heat waves over asphalt, but it was enough to make the yellow light of Sinestro's battery flicker, and the symbiote on Peter's body twitch like it had touched a live wire. The scent of ozone thickened in the park, and a deep hum vibrated through the ground. Sinestro's gaze flicked upward, his ring feeding him data in alien script. Dimensional instability detected. He didn't have time to investigate. The symbiote had already lunged. Black tendrils snapped out like whips, wrapping around the yellow power battery in his grasp. Sinestro's lips curled in disdain, and a construct blade erupted from his ring, slicing the tendrils in one swift stroke. The symbiote shrieked in Peter's head, not in pain, but in rage. "All right," Peter growled, rolling his shoulders as the symbiote formed jagged armor along his forearms. "You want to fight? Let's go." They collided in the center of the park with the force of a car crash. Sinestro's constructs came fast. Spears, chains, serpentine coils of light, each one twisting and adapting mid-swing. Peter dodged, blocked, and countered with black webbing that hardened into blades in midair. The symbiote was feeding him faster reflexes, sharper movements, but it was also pushing him harder, urging him to strike to kill. A chain of yellow light coiled around Peter's waist, hoisting him off the ground. Sinestro pulled him in close, eyes glowing like twin suns. "You are strong for one without a ring," he admitted, "but you lack vision. You fight for nothing but survival." Peter's answer came in the form of a tendril that shot from his shoulder, wrapping around Sinestro's wrist. The symbiote pulsed, and for an instant, yellow energy flowed into it. Not much, but enough to make Peter's heart stutter in shock. His right fist glowed faintly with that same sickly golden hue. The symbiote's whisper in his mind became a roar. "Take more." Sinestro tore free before the connection could deepen. He'd felt that pull. The parasite was hungry for the light of fear itself. "Interesting," he said, a note of genuine intrigue in his voice. "You might be more dangerous than I thought." They moved the fight into the city almost unconsciously. Sinestro flying low over the streets, firing constructs at precise points to force Peter into the open. Taxis swerved, glass shattered, alarms screamed. Peter swung between buildings, black webbing streaking behind him like smoke trails, firing back bursts of hardened tendrils that speared through Sinestro's constructs. At one point, Sinestro conjured a massive yellow hammer, swinging it into the side of a building to collapse it onto Peter. The symbiote reacted instantly, flattening Peter's body against the wall like liquid and sliding him through a narrow gap between crumbling floors. Emerging on the other side, Peter leapt onto Sinestro's back, mid-flight, slamming both fists into his shoulders. The impact made the yellow energy around Sinestro flicker, and for a moment, the two of them spiraled toward the street. They crashed through the glass atrium of a bank, the sound echoing like a bomb. Sinestro rose first, unharmed, his ring creating a shield dome to keep debris from crushing him. Peter followed, the symbiote bristling with spikes. The battery lay between them on the polished marble floor, pulsing brighter with each passing second. The symbiote acted before Peter could stop it. Black tendrils shot toward the battery, wrapping around it greedily. The moment they touched, yellow light surged up the tendrils and into Peter's body. His eyes went wide behind the mask, the white lenses flashing gold. The power was intoxicating. Fear, energy, and alien hunger merging into something primal. Sinestro's expression hardened. "Release it," he commanded. Peter didn't answer. His chest heaved, every muscle thrumming with strength he had never known. The symbiote had begun forming crude constructs of its own. Jagged, black and yellow weapons that seemed alive, shifting shape with every heartbeat. For the first time, Sinestro felt a flicker of unease. "Fine," Sinestro said coldly. "If you will not yield, I will tear your parasite from your corpse." The bank exploded into chaos. Constructs of pure fear clashed with warped, living weapons of black and gold. Peter moved faster than ever, his punches carrying the weight of both the symbiote and the ring's energy. Sinestro countered with calculated precision, forcing Peter back toward the shattered front doors. Every blow lit the air with sparks. Every dodge left craters in the marble floor. Outside, the dimensional rift widened again, its edges now visible to the naked eye. A swirling tear in reality that bled strange light onto the streets. People screamed and fled as smaller portals began popping open, unstable windows into other worlds. Peter caught glimpses between strikes, the skies of Oa, the rooftops of Gotham, alien landscapes he couldn't name. The symbiote surged, sensing opportunity. If it could pull Sinestro through one of those rifts, it might be able to keep the battery for itself. But Sinestro saw the same opening. Only in his mind, it was an escape route back to his universe. Once he eliminated the threat in front of him. Their final exchange in the bank's ruins was brutal. Peter hurled a massive black and yellow axe construct. Sinestro shattered it with a hammer, and the two slammed into each other one last time, she or her the shockwave blowing out the remaining windows. Both men landed hard on opposite sides of the street, chests heaving, the battery lying between them again. Above, the largest rift yet split open, its pull growing stronger, ready to drag them both into the unknown. Neither would back down. The street shook as the rift above widened into a spiraling maelstrom of fractured reality. Cars slid toward it, streetlights bent unnaturally, and glass swirled upward like glitter in a storm. The pull was so strong that both Spider-Man and Sinestro had to anchor themselves. Sinestro braced behind a construct spear, driven into the asphalt, Peter locking black web lines into surrounding buildings. Between them, the yellow power battery rolled slowly across the street, its glow warping in the unstable light. The symbiote's voice in Peter's head was no longer a whisper or a shout. It was a command. Take it. End him. We are more than him. Peter's fingers twitched, his every muscle aching from the fight, but the hunger was overwhelming. He leapt first, black tendrils lashing out like spears toward the battery. Sinestro reacted instantly, snapping his spear free and firing a beam of pure yellow light that split the street open. "You think you can wield fear, insect," he roared. "You drown in it." The beam hit Peter square in the chest, but instead of flinging him back, the symbiote absorbed the blow, converting some of the fear energy into jagged armor. Black and gold plating now covered Peter from head to toe, his silhouette monstrous. His voice was deeper, distorted as he charged. "Then let's see who sinks first." They collided again, this time with nothing held back. Sinestro conjured a swarm of yellow serpents that coiled through the air, snapping at Peter's limbs. Peter countered by hurling warped constructs, shields that bled into spiked chains mid-flight, tearing through the serpents in showers of golden shards. Each strike brought them closer to the rift, its edge now distorting the air around them into violent, colorless static. With a sudden burst of speed, Sinestro closed the distance and struck Peter with a construct blade, cutting through a layer of symbiote plating. The wound hissed, black tendrils sewing themselves shut instantly. Peter retaliated by grabbing Sinestro's arm, the symbiote latching onto the yellow ring itself. For a heartbeat, Peter felt everything. Sinestro's pride, his conquests, his unshakable belief in control through fear. The symbiote drank it in like water. Sinestro yanked his hand free, breathing hard now. "You are an abomination." Peter lunged, and they crashed together again. But this time, the rift's pull ripped them both off their feet. In an instant, they were airborne, debris spiraling past as they tumbled into the tear in reality. The world outside warped into streaks of light and shadow before shattering completely. Inside the rift was chaos. Fragments of other worlds spun around them. A shard of Oa's citadel, the Daily Bugle's rooftop, alien moons, the Gotham skyline under blood-red clouds. Gravity shifted wildly, sending them hurtling from one floating piece of debris to another. They fought without pause, leaping across platforms that crumbled beneath them, their blows shaking fragments apart into nothingness. Peter's black and gold form moved like a predator, faster and more ruthless than ever. But the power was taking its toll. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, the symbiote's voice pushing him toward a single intoxicating thought. Kill him. Take the ring. Never go back. Sinestro, realizing the symbiote's growing dominance, shifted tactics. His constructs grew sharper, more defensive, forcing Peter to overextend. He baited Peter toward a jagged cliff of debris, and then, with a calculated strike, shattered its base. The entire section tilted toward the rift's core, dragging Peter with it. Peter fired black webbing into the void, catching a floating girder, but Sinestro was already there, seizing the yellow battery. "Your hunger will destroy you," he said coldly. "I will not let it destroy my universe as well." With a surge of will, Sinestro hurled the battery into a closing side rift, away from both of them. The symbiote's scream of fury echoed inside Peter's skull, nearly dropping him to his knees. Blinded by rage, he attacked without strategy, hammering Sinestro with blow after blow. The two tumbled toward the rift's event horizon, the pull becoming irresistible. In the last moment before they were torn apart, Sinestro fired a final construct, a massive hand, that grabbed Peter and flung him backward through a collapsing shard of reality. Peter landed hard on wet pavement, the cold night air of New York hitting him like a slap. The rift above sealed in an instant, leaving only the fading echo of Sinestro's voice. "You are not ready." Peter staggered to his feet, the black and gold armor peeling away into its usual slick black form. The symbiote was silent now, simmering in frustration, but Peter could still feel its hunger gnawing at him. Somewhere out there, Sinestro still lived. And the memory of that power would haunt them both. As the city's sirens closed in, Peter looked to the empty sky. For once, he wasn't thinking about the usual web of responsibility. He was thinking about the rift, and what other monsters might come through next time. The void snapped shut behind Sinestro with a soundless flash, leaving him drifting in the cold black of his own universe. His ring automatically stabilized him in the vacuum of space, a thin halo of yellow light surrounding his body as he oriented himself. Below, the familiar emerald and gold spires of Korrigar glimmered against the dark, the homeworld he had remade in his image. But he did not descend right away. Instead, he opened a secure channel, not to his core, but to the archives of his personal ring, replaying the battle in slow detail. He studied every movement, every strike, every moment the black-clad creature had come close to ripping the yellow power battery from his grasp. He paused on one frame. The mask's white eyes narrowed into a predator's glare, the black and gold armor forming jagged spines along the arms. The ring's analysis scrolled an alien script: lifeform origin unknown, power source, parasitic organism bonded to host, combat ability, adaptive, highly aggressive, capable of mimicking emotional spectrum constructs when exposed, threat level, pending, potentially catastrophic. Sinestro's mouth curled into a thin smile. So, the parasite can learn. He closed the feed, turning his gaze toward the distant stars. And it has tasted fear. Without another word, he flew toward the Sinestro core base on Quard. As he entered the Great Citadel's war room, the assembled yellow lanterns rose in salute. Archillo, towering and brutish, stepped forward. "The fugitive." "Disposed of," Sinestro replied, his voice smooth but laced with something sharper. "But I have seen a far greater threat, one without a ring, yet able to shape my light." The chamber fell silent. Sinestro placed his hand on the central projection table, and the hologram of symbiote Spider-Man sprang to life in stark yellow lines. This creature exists beyond our universe. For now, it remains there. But the walls between worlds are weakening. If it crosses into ours, it will not be contained by the Guardians, the Green Lanterns, or even me. Archillo snarled. "Then we hunt it." "Not yet," Sinestro said, stepping away. "It is not ready. But when it hungers again, and it will come looking for the light." He turned, the cape of his uniform billowing in the dim golden glow. "And when it does, the Sinestro core will be waiting." Far away on the rooftops of New York, Peter Parker crouched in the rain, looking out over the city. The symbiote whispered faintly, not in rage, but in longing. Somewhere deep inside, Peter knew it wasn't thinking about this city at all. It was thinking about a yellow light burning in another universe, and how good it would feel to have it again.